Hi, I'm Roland. Once again, welcome to my YouTube channel where you learn the A to Z of network devices configuration, verification, and troubleshooting, as well as tips and tricks on how to manipulate and maneuver your network devices. In today's video, I'll be quite brief, but nevertheless, get your minds ready for the mind-blowing trick using 7 simple steps to hack into routers and crack their passwords. Isn't that amazing? Now, before we proceed, I want to clarify some few things. Firstly, I shouldn't be held liable for anything that goes wrong with your routers. Secondly, hacking is not really a bad thing per se. Now, there are 3 categories of hackers: black hat, white hat, and gray hat. The black hat are those that actually use their skills negatively. Well, that being said, I don't want to go into details. You can stick to my subsequent videos. You might learn a thing or more. Without further ado, let's get started. Now imagine you have a router that has been passworded, so obviously you can't log into. Now let's use this router we configured in my previous class. Recall that we gave it a host name, room, okay? Recall that we also gave it passwords, line console passwords, line VTY passwords, enable secret passwords, and we also encrypted the passwords anyway, okay? Now, let's imagine I don't know the passwords and I want to log into this router. Follow these 7 steps. Step 1. Power off and on the router and interrupt the boot sequence by pressing the break key. Now, some computers don't really have keyboards, break key on their keyboards. Okay? So you can use the on-screen keyboard. Okay, now I'll click the router, this back of the router, okay, and I'll see the power button there. I'll switch it off and on, and then quickly log in through my console while the router is booting and interrupt the boot sequence by hitting the break key. Let's go. Okay, you can see the router booting. Good. I'm now in the ROM on mode. So right now I'm in the ROM on mode. Okay. Step 2. Instruct the router to bypass the startup configuration file stored in the NVRAM by changing the configuration register value to 0x2142. Now we can achieve that using the confreg command, confreg 0x2142. Now from my previous class, you know how to get the configuration register value. You know the command to display that. Okay, and we know that the default is 0x2102. Also, what this command does is that it tells the router to ignore the configurations stored in the NVRAM, the startup configuration file. Recall that that file is the file that contains the passwords as well. Whenever we issue the copy running config, startup config, we're actually backing up in the NVRAM. So this command is telling the router to ignore that configuration. Hope that is clear. Okay, now step 3. You reload the router. Now in this mode, we type reset to reload the router. You can see the router is booting up. Okay, now this will allow the router to ignore the need to be prompted for password. So you can see I'm not prompted for password, and it's asking me, do I want to enter initial configurations dialog, which as usual I'll answer no to it. Bravo, I'm now on the router. Wow. So we've ignored being prompted for passwords. Now, step 4. Okay, we'll go to the privilege mode by typing enable as usual. Okay. Now, we'll copy the contents of the startup configuration file into RAM. Copy startup config to running config. Running config, recall running config is on the RAM. Now take note, I'm not copying running config to startup config. If you do that, you erase the startup configuration file. You don't want to do that. So just copy startup config to running config, because we are copying the contents of whatever is stored in the NVRAM to the running config, and we hit our enter key. Okay, good. Step 5. We can now view the router configuration. Okay, take a look at the passwords. Wow, we've automatically done what? We've cracked this router's passwords. We've hacked into this router. Recall that this router was passworded, but right now I'm on the router. I can do whatever I want here. I can even view the password. I can retain those passwords if I so wish, especially if they are not encrypted. Okay, and I can change the password. Okay, so show running config. You can see all these passwords were entered before. They are encrypted because I used the service password encryption in my last class, recall. Okay, so right now, had it been they are not encrypted, I can still use the password if I so wish and gain entry into this router on some other date. Okay, but they are encrypted, so I can change it if I want. Now the interfaces will be shut down. We didn't configure interfaces initially on this standalone router, if you recall, so it's of no point, or else they'll be shut down. So you need to go and bring them back up by issuing the no shutdown command. Okay, so right now we've done that. So we are on the router. We move to step 6. Ideally we are through, but step 6 is very important. You need to revert the configuration register value to the default, which is 0x2102 or 0x210F, as the case may be. Why do you need to do that? Because if you don't do that, the router will continuously be booting to the ROM-on mode. You don't want to see that. Okay, so you go to the global configuration mode and issue this command: config register 0x2102 and hit your enter key. Step 7. Go back to the enable mode and save your configuration. Okay, so I'll go back and copy running config, startup config. Okay, one last step. Hit the subscribe button so you'll get notified on my subsequent videos. Also, for more intensive training and tips, send me an email. Okay, now you can hack into the router anytime you want, even if it's passworded. Also, this video can help save someone's job if he has forgotten the password of his organizational's router as a network administrator. Hope this was helpful and you had a wonderful time. Thank you and arrivederci.